Welcome to NFL Daily, where I don't think Caleb Williams is going to make another life-changing play again this season, but you never know. Like, at this point, he makes the impossible possible. I'm Gregg Rosenthal in the Chris Wesseling podcast studio. I'm with my friend Patrick Claybon. Nick Shook is joining us from Cleveland. The divisional round was a banger. Conference championship weekend is going to have a lot to live up to. Nick Shook, we know what the championship games are going to be. And yes, the Bears are not going to be involved in it. And yet, even though they lost in this game, I still can't move past that one last Caleb moment that he gave us earlier tonight.
Yeah, it's only right that it ended that way. Of course, you don't want, Bears fans to have their hearts broken as they too often have, but it's only right that they had another miraculous play on a 4th and 4, gotta have it situation that pays off and gives them one last thrill to basically put a capper on what was a thrill-filled 2025 season, a great debut for the Ben Johnson era, and plenty to look forward to for this fan base.
In classic no, yes form, where Caleb instantly starts to retreat and spins back, and it's like, oh no, it's all going to be for naught, and then magic that ultimately fizzles out. But living in those moments is what makes this whole enterprise so special.
I know, and I got Eric Roberts. He's recovered. We love you, Eric, from that thing we won't talk about that happened on Saturday involving your team, yelling at me. It's like, we're going to get to that play. We're going to talk about the play. But sometimes plays and themes of a season we can't even wait to get into. And Caleb Williams and these plays that he's made at the end of these games, to me, are like the number one theme of this season. And yet, it was the Rams, resourceful as ever, who found a way to get it done in that cold.
For the rookie Harrison Mevis, out of the hold of Ethan Evans, here it comes to send the Rams to Seattle for the NFC Championship game. It's good! The Rams win it 20-17 in overtime.
Great call by our friend JB Long, who's making that long flight back from Chicago on Sunday night with our friend Maurice Jones-Drew, and they're going to be making another flight up the coast to Seattle for the NFC Championship game next Sunday. Harrison Mevis, before getting bleeped on NBC after the game, that was controversial, finishes out a crazy game that had a little bit of everything. 20-17. The Rams win. I'm going to do something different here, Patrick and Nick. We're each going to have one overarching thought.
Oh, my God.
Of this game, like a takeaway before we get into everything. I'm putting you on the spot. What is your takeaway from this entire affair?
Okay, so around 80 plays for the starters on both teams. I think you alter the results on 15 of those individual plays.
Sure.
You get a different end result. It's equal parts frustrating as well as fantastic, because those are the stakes in a single elimination playoff game. And I hope in our everlasting search, Greg, for that one particular thing to take away from the game, we pull back our focus and we're able to turn the resolution up and see that the forest is the trees, the individual aspects that make all of this.
Well, that's why I'm getting 3 different takeaways to start. Just 3 umbrella takeaways as we get going. What about you, Shook?
This was a classic case of a football game that included many phases. It included a first half in which the Bears didn't capitalize on what I thought was a better half of performance than their opposition, the Rams. Yet you're tied at 10. It's basically a slog of a third quarter, early fourth quarter. The Rams finally find their rhythm, get into the end zone, and it takes a miracle for the Bears. Naturally, I think that it was a perfect example of how football is truly a 4-quarter and sometimes extra period story, and why it is the most popular sport in this nation.
Yeah, and the reason I started even with that, mentioning that Caleb play was, Roger Goodell has to be sad to see this Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson team go, because we've been doing this a while. There's never been anything quite like the end of this Bears season. Not really. I mean, if you go back to the Week 16 game against the Packers and how that ended, first of all, he has the most comeback fourth quarter wins in the history of the league. So literally that hasn't happened. But the combination of what he did in Week 18 and then throughout these playoffs in Week 16, I can't remember a ride we've ever been on like this, but my takeaway, so I guess that was kind of two. I'm jamming it in there. That's what you do as a host.
Absolutely.
My takeaway is that like the Rams defense kept giving Matthew Stafford enough chances to eventually do the thing that Matthew Stafford does. And I think that gets to your point, too, to both of your points, that it is a fourth quarter overtime game. It had so many swings, but we're going to get to the Patriots-Texans, I should have mentioned, the AFC Championship.
That game happened
is set as well. But I found some similarities here where the two leading MVP candidates both didn't play their best games on Sunday, but it is a team sport, and particularly for Stafford, who I think had his worst game of the entire season today. He was picked up by his defense like he's picked up his teammates and his defense so many times this season, and eventually the play calling in the fourth quarter from Sean McVay and then the execution, especially by Stafford in the overtime drive, they kept giving him chances, and eventually he did the thing that Matthew Stafford does, and he steals your soul.
Yeah, it was great performances, especially the entire Bears secondary. Deshaun Wright had better coverage on Devontae Adams for almost the entire game. A crucial, great throw and catch from Stafford to Adams on the game-winning Mevis field goal drive. I've been thinking about it all night, and I flubbed it on the first try. But in terms of like the game by Jaquan Brisker, the game by Kyler Gordon, it was over and over again the Bears defense putting Stafford in these disadvantageous positions where, maybe throwing the ball is not the right circumstance, but they're going to dance with who brung him, and he's been great all year. Just a great defensive performance tonight that came up a touch short.
You made a face shook when I said I thought it was the worst Stafford performance of the season.
Yeah.
Why do you disagree?
You're wrong. His worst performance was in Atlanta at the end, near the end of the season.
Yeah,
it was a terrible game that he had that day. This was not close to that. But what this was a great example of why the playoffs are so captivating, and especially this year, because this game mirrored a lot of what we saw in Denver yesterday, which was coaches making adjustments and basically reacting to what one team dictating to the other, and then them taking the power back. And in this instance, it was Dennis Allen blitzing Matthew Stafford off the edge with the defensive backs, giving him looks that he wasn't accustomed to or wasn't comfortable with. They couldn't throw the football, even though outside of their first early scoring drive, and they stuck to it. And then it's Sean McVay getting to halftime and almost listening to the NBC halftime show, and they're all sitting at the desk, Jason Garrett, Tony Dungy, and they're all just like, run the ball more. And what does he do? They come out and they run the ball more, and they get back on track. A chess match, a back
Took
and
him
forth.
a while.
This is why playoff football is so good.
We got late to the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I don't know if he was watching the halftime live. Maybe they played it to him like right at the end of the third quarter or so, because it still took him a while. Yeah, there was like a 7-drive sequence where they had 89 total yards on 31 plays, 6 first downs in a 7-drive sequence. And at that point of the game, they had thrown the ball 34 times. They had run it 11 times. Maybe he actually was on Blue Sky, because that's the moment where I sent out something of like, that they've, despite having like a 54% success rate so far to that point in the game, it would have been 34-11 in terms of passes to runs. After that point, when I sent that out, not taking credit, but you just never know. I mean, causation, correlation, who knows? They only threw the ball 12 times. They ran it 20 times, and they had a classic Kyren Williams and Blake Corum drive that ended up resulting in a touchdown that also included the classic Puka Nacua 4th down play. Let's actually listen to a question from the press conference after the game. How about our Jordan Rodriguez in the press conference room? She's not throwing away a question. She's getting to the meat of the matter.
Is there anything to take from tonight going so pass heavy in the elements against a really good DBs group?
Yeah, you know what? I think what I kind of mentioned it. I could have done a much better job. And then I did think once we were able to get some success, we settled into a little bit of a different approach, being able to lean on the run. And then when we were throwing it, picking up the tempo a little bit. And I thought Matthew had a bunch of success keeping the ball in play. And guys made their plays. And so I think overall what I would say, Jordan, is I did not like the feel for the flow of the game that I had outside of the first, series where our guys did a great job defensively. It kept us in it in spite of how, poor of a job I did for our group. But like I said, I'm really grateful for this group being able to find a way, stick with it, and be able to overcome some bad coaching by me tonight.
You like to have players who are coachable, and you look at the history of Jordan Rodriguez coaching up Sean McVay. It's worked in the past. And I think we had an opportunity to see that past success paying off there in that instance.
It's true, because I think you got a better question, because it was Jordan asking him that question in that spot, and he understood it. It was a great answer. And yeah, they get the ball back in the start of the fourth quarter. Like, once again, their defense gets the ball back. As much as I want to credit the Bears defense and Dennis Allen for having an incredible game plan, getting pressure throughout. Kevin Byard actually told Kimberly Martin of ESPN before the game, their whole plan was to make Matthew Stafford one-dimensional and make him throw the ball 40 or 50 times. That's what we want to do. He said that before the game, publicly, and that is kind of what they made him do. But the Rams defense kept getting the ball back as well. They force a punt after halftime. They intercept Caleb Williams late in the third quarter too. They force another punt. That's when the Rams get the ball back at their own 9-yard line and go on a 14-play, 91-yard drive. That included a lot of runs, yes, but a third down conversion on a 3rd and 6 to Puka Nacua. And then there was that 4th down, and we're sitting in the newsroom. And if you're watching, you can see the 4th and 1 play to Puka Nacua, where it's like it's the call that the Rams go to all the time on 4th and 1. That sort of end around that Puka Nacua gets the ball. It's the same one. Jordan and I talk about it all the time. And Patrick called it even before they lined up. Oh, they're going to hand it off to Puka Nacua on this play. But you know what? They run a different little variation of it where he goes in motion past Stafford, reverses his field, goes back the other way, and then does a good job breaking the tackle on 31. Who is that?
It's Byard.
That's Byard in a big spot. And it's crazy if you look, Shook, over the last few years of Rams football, how many big moments are those wide receiver runs. And it was an up and down game for the Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford connection. Like, a lot of their automatics just were not happening throughout the game. But then you think about that 3rd down earlier in that drive. You think about a 3rd down where he replaces where the blitz is coming from in overtime to Puka Nacua, and then that 4th down too. Like, in the end, the Puka Nacua Stafford connection ends up taking them home and just getting them over the finish line.
And that's another part that's just so beautiful about football. It so much could depend on tape study. How much have you studied your opponent and what they like to do in certain situations? And how do they play off of that? Because later in this game, they try to show as if they're going to run an end around to Puka again on a 3rd and short. And they motion him to the right. Then they run a toss to the left, and it gets blown up in the backfield after Kyron Williams, but he breaks an initial tackle and then gets taken down, right? And so it's that. But it's also, I see people online immediately after they convert that 3rd down in overtime to Puka. Why are you playing off coverage, 8 yards off when it's 3rd and 5? Well, because they're blitzing and the Rams are just replacing where the defender left with the receiver for the 1st down. It's the back and forth. It's the what do I think is going to work here? What do we like to go to? What am I anticipating that they're doing? And it's so great that Sean McVay caught up to himself in time, because at the end of that touchdown drive to take a 17-10 lead, they show a shot of him on the sideline and he's visibly fired up, like let's freaking go, that sort of thing. And I'm like, you know what? He really is reveling in this moment right now because he's proud of himself for getting out of a bad game flow, calling a really good drive, and finally getting a step ahead of Dennis Allen after you spent the entire game on your back foot because Allen was dictating to you. It's just a great thing about football. That's why these games are so special.
Yeah, the picture dictates so much of what the Rams do. It's based on the look, and to take that particular flow back from Dennis Allen and say, well, why don't we take an opportunity to dictate here? Because to me, it freed up a little bit of Stafford in the passing game, because these, like, Kyler Gordon had the second most pressures on the Bears. Like, the Bears' time to their pressure,
wow,
a lot of them was less than 3 seconds. Like it was getting to Stafford so quickly, where you can see it in the statistics that, yeah, McVay's right. The flow of the game and the play calling wasn't on his side until it was.
And you think about, in terms of going with tempo late in the game, they also had a good drive at the end of the second quarter to get a field goal, and that was when they had to go tempo, 1 minute and 10 seconds left in that game. And so that's sort of what I was getting at when I said the defense kept giving them chances for Sean McVay to kind of get out of that rut, because the last drive of regulation, the drive after the Rams scored that touchdown, a bit of a fiasco. The first drive of overtime, you just mentioned one of the final plays on it, the toss that gets stuffed, looked like it might lose them the game because they're giving the ball back up and all the Bears need to do is get a field goal. They were all in that position, though, because of the play. Let's actually listen. Let's set up. Once again, it's 17-10. Rams allow the Bears to drive down to the goal line, but like for much of the day, the Bears struggled inside the 5-yard line. We'll return to that in a second. They get all the way to 4th down until Caleb just takes it into his own hands.
It's 4th and 4 at the Ram 14, and in the gun is the quarterback, Caleb Williams. Looks into the nickel. Arms outstretched. 4th down and 4. 14 of the Rams. Shotgun snap. Goes back 4. 4-man rush. He's chased. He's flushed. He's all the way back to the 40. He's backpedaling and throws a pass into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! Touchdown! Chicago has caught a touchdown pass with Cole Kmet open in the corner. If you hadn't seen it, you would not believe it. 18 seconds left. Pandemonium at Soldier Field.
This dude's magic.
It's a Harlan banger. Another one.
The best.
Love Kevin Harlan, and yeah, I could watch that play forever. And look, the way he kept running back on that play, it reminded me of flag football a little bit. Occasionally you'll see in these flag like middle school leagues, there's the one kid who's just way more athletic and better than everyone. And that's the type of stuff that you can do. Also reminds me a little bit of Tecmo's Super Bowl. If you haven't, a good quarterback and you just start running backwards forever because you're faster than he could do. But he's doing that against Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and Kobe Turner, and then turning around. And Kobe Durant would have been sick if they lose this game because he loses Kmet at the last second. But for Caleb to throw that ball kind of blind, but kind of knowing he's there and having the confidence to do it, like that looked like it was plan A, Patrick. That was kind of what he wanted to do.
Yeah, he just wanted to get enough time to have his giant tight end matched up with one of the smallest people on the field and to have a weight room moment in the back of the end zone where I get Tecmo Super Bowl. I get a little game breaker 98.
Yeah.
With the way that all of Fisk and Verse and Young's animations were the exact same in chasing Caleb Williams and reacting to his movements, where he's laying on his back at the logo. When Kmet catches this ball, where it's perfect. It's a perfect moment.
So this throw, you won't be surprised to know, was the furthest completion on a throw made, like the furthest behind the line of scrimmage of any completion in the NFL since the NGS era started. Like he went back further and completed the pass more than any throw in the NGS era. It also was the longest completion of any red zone throw, not a surprise there, in terms of air yards in the NGS era. So that's just putting like a couple of numbers on seeing fantastic play, and Ben Johnson called it just ridiculous afterwards. Now, in that moment, there's 18 seconds left, and it's 17-16. Do you think that Ben Johnson should have gone for 2, Shook, and did you think he would?
I don't know if I would say I think that he should have. I thought he was going to. Yeah. I definitely thought this is like the most aggressive coach in the NFL. He comes from the Dan Campbell tree, one of the most aggressive coaches in the NFL. But it was also a great example of how within the game, how it can affect your decisions later. Because every time that they went for it, whether it was in a goal to go situation, they turned it over on downs twice in this game. And the 4th and goal situation they had earlier, which led them to needing that throw, it was a call that, it's a quick fire pass and it gets broken up by Spates at the goal line. And you're thinking, if that's your best play call at that point, you probably have nothing left. So I understand why you kick the PAT, you take it to overtime, you think you're going to ride the wave of momentum at home into overtime and capitalize there. But I was a little bit surprised, just knowing who he was, that he didn't go for it, just because that's the type of coach he is. Totally understood why, though. Don't disagree with it at all.
Yeah, I said to Greg before the drive that this is setting up for a 2-point conversion that we're going to have a chance to talk about for years, but the explanation from Coach Johnson makes perfect sense, and Shook's all over it. The play had already been run. Like if you go through like game-winning 2-point conversion plays, considering the stakes of the game, whatever they would have run in that situation was probably already called.
And it wasn't executed well, as he pointed out. He was just saying, look, they weren't clean. He wishes he had a better plan. Our goal-to-go plan just wasn't great. And if you're watching again, you can see the video. By the way, I just want people to see this. That Stacey Dales shot of the Caleb touchdown, which might be the finest reporter on the sideline, just taping from their phone, hoping to get a little magic moment ever. Maybe the number one of the genre, Cole Kmet just swinging for the home run right to Stacey Dales. He was like, I'm going to score a life-changing touchdown, then I'm going to find Stacey Dales and go right into her phone.
If you're watching on Sunday Night Football, you're thinking, wow, Cole Kmet went right to the Sunday Night Football camera and hit his home run celebration. No, that was Stacey. He was doing that celebration just off screen.
Crazy.
Also, Stacey, great master of the zoom feature on an iPhone, right?
Yeah.
Like the little pull your thumb up, pull it down, zooming in, zooming out at the perfect time.
Tim Cook, hit her up.
Whole thing is crazy, and I certainly don't blame Ben Johnson for not going for two. And this is why press conferences, asking for context is perfect. That all made sense, like his answer for it. And ultimately, he got the ball back in overtime. His defense got to stop. That might have played into it. He's like, I felt like, we could go win it in overtime. And he was right. He got the ball back. He gets all the way to midfield in overtime. And you do think about whether the fourth down decisions too earlier in this game, impacted Ben Johnson. So the Bears go 3 for 6 on fourth down in this game. Now they get a touchdown in the first half because they go for it on fourth down, and then they get stopped another time. That's a net win. You get 7 points. Yeah. 7's better than the 2 field goals.
It's greater than.
Then you have a goal line stop of DeAndre Swift on third down. That was a really fascinating sequence when the Bears are driving late in regulation. It's their drive before that one. They get to the goal line, and there's a back-to-back play sequence with DeAndre Swift trying to get in, and then a stop on fourth down that could have possibly been a James Harrison type of play for Omar Spates. What were you thinking about what the Rams defense was going to do there? Nick, in general, why were the what did the Rams do specifically? I guess if you saw anything in this game, because their defense did a great job too and deserves a lot of credit for slowing down this Bears attack, especially on the ground near the goal line.
And this is a Bears team that runs pretty violently inside the 5 when they do commit to the run on the goal line. It's worked against other teams in the past. And this time around, they kind of twist Swift down short of the goal line by, I think, 2 yards on second down. Third down, it looks like he's going to make it with the toss, but the Bears successfully string it out. He tries to go for the hurdle. Then he gets blasted. Quentin Lake flies in out of nowhere. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it right now. He gets strung out by Verse. He tries to hurdle over the next defender. Then Quentin Lake flies in out of nowhere and blasts him out of the air to send him down to the ground, still short of the goal line. He's gained nothing there. And at that point, you're thinking, okay, if you're trying to commit to running the ball, you believe you can run the ball here into the end zone, you're probably out of options going on to fourth down. Yep. I don't know why Kyle Monungai wasn't more involved. He's the more violent runner of the two, but you can always, hindsight's 20/20. I thought the fourth down play was curious at best. It was basically like what you would call a spacing concept where you get, guys in kind of a bunch formation. Somebody comes inside and runs a little hitch on the inside, and you just fire it in there in a tight window, but Spates was all over it. It's a great play by the Rams defense. And at that point, you've exhausted all of the Bears goal line plays, including probably the 2-point conversion, which is why it had such a major effect on the outcome of the game, because then they get down there with the miraculous catch, and they can't do anything to go win the game. They just have to settle for the PAT, which was perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's one of those particular, the granular aspects of that play, because they pulled Jordan McFadden, the left guard on the other side, on that shotgun handoff to Swift, where maybe you think he can go inside of McFadden's block. He trusts himself to be able to get to the end zone. Then he's got Darius Williams. He can't see Quentin Lake coming on the backside. In hindsight and looking at the broadcast view, you're thinking, well, if he takes Darius Williams' corner to the pylon, I think DeAndre Swift gets there. but he sees the shortest route being there, not knowing that Lake was on the outside of his block in the first place, which is probably why he could have gone inside in the first way.
It did feel like Detroit Lions DeAndre Swift showed up for one play, because if he just didn't jump, if he just lowered his shoulder, like he's falling inside the one, I think at the worst. But the way they defended that, and there were so many defensive plays by the Rams during this game, which kept them in it. But more than anything, it was the secondary. Like Cam Curl gets an absolutely massive interception in overtime. Here is Cam Curl talking after the game with NBC.
2 picks for your boy Kobe Durant. How were you all able to read Caleb Williams so well tonight?
Man, just playing together, man. We trust each other, man. And, we heard a little noise, in the wind about our secondary. They were hating on us, but, we came to show them what we can do, man. We make plays back there, man. We win games for the team.
What'd you hear?
Man, we ain't gonna give them no airtime, but we heard it, though. And that's why we play like that. We will continue to play like that.
That's me. I'm sorry, Chicago. I motivated the Rams secondary to play extra hard. I thought maybe the Bears could exploit some size advantages, and considering the Kobe Durant play with Cole Kmet, it appears that happened, but the Rams secondary made some plays.
We've been talking about the Rams DBs being, especially the cornerbacks, being potentially their Achilles heel all season. I do want to show that Cam Curl interception in overtime, because I think it's going to be a controversial play for a long time in Chicago. After the game, Caleb Williams said that it was a miscommunication, that he thought DJ Moore was going to flatten out the route a little more, but Moore went vertical. Some other people, Shooky, saying DJ Moore kind of quiet quit on a route at the biggest spot in overtime. What was your read on that? Just a fantastic play, by the way, by Curl. Like, that often is the difference in these games, is like a defensive back or a defensive player just like making the damn play. But it was not a great DJ Moore moment, and probably the last moment of him in a Bears uniform.
Yeah, but I think this is a both things can be true situation, because let's think about it from DJ Moore's perspective. You're running that route. It's a deep over, and you're thinking, all right, this safety's here. I'm covered. Like, I'm not going to get the ball because I'm covered. Whereas Caleb's thinking, flatten it out, adjust to where the DB is. He doesn't. So he does kind of quit on the play. But also, it's a great play made by the defensive back, and it's just a bit of a misunderstanding between quarterback and receiver. And sometimes that just happens. It's just that it happened to be at the worst
but it happens with DJ Moore. It happens with DJ Moore a lot. It really does.
That's probably why he's going to be gone.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, because look, I am more amazed by quarterbacks and wide receivers being able to sight adjust just as a regular part of, that's just how the NFL is played, like on a every down basis. I'm more amazed by that than almost anything, like even more than all the athletics. It seems insane that works. And it's always worked. So like, I get it that it's a high degree of difficulty situation. But unfortunately, I think Caleb had it read, right. And it's interesting because they get the ball back there in overtime after a pretty regrettable drive by the Rams, and they get it all the way to midfield. Caleb Williams is scrambling later in the game. Caleb Williams is making a lot of really great high-level throws. They're at midfield. At this point, I think Rams fans are thinking, like, this game's probably over. They need one first down to get in Cairo Santos's field goal range, and instead they're kind of big game hunting, and that's how the Rams end up moving on.
Yeah, and Caleb's aggressive. That's why they were in this game in the first place. It has happened a lot with DJ Moore. I feel like the fact that it was, route number 58 for DJ Moore, and the accumulation of, DJ is not a smallish wide receiver to be, playing that volume of plays, and again, not to make excuse for it, but just to highlight, some of the factors that go into that, where he's, like you said, he's not necessarily looking. If he's looking, I think it's a little bit different. But didn't see the ball, saw something different than Caleb did. And this is a couple plays after Caleb runs directly into Landman on a first down run, where, he's like Tebow powering it down the field for the Chicago Bears. And I know, hindsight being absolutely flawless as it always is going to be, folks wanted some more runs there, but people wanted runs when there were passes. We could fix everything if we had a time machine.
Caleb was, even though he threw 3 picks, I just have so much more confidence in him than I even did 6 weeks ago. I think he was just improving on a week-to-week basis. Some of the hole shots in this game, there was the one to Odunze late in the fourth quarter that he hit, but there were a couple like that on that one. Actually, Colston Loveland, by the way, Ollie Connolly texted me to point. Make sure you give Colston Loveland his credit for blocking Jared Verse one-on-one. Sometimes tight ends can block the defensive end. It's not always a problem, and it's true on that play. And Caleb had a few plays like that to Odunze, to Moore, who did have 5 catches in this game, including a touchdown, to Loveland. But I did think like a problem for them in this game was like the Bears receivers weren't always making the plays for him. I think there were 2 to 3 clear drops. Loveland definitely had 1 or 2. And then there was probably like 4 or 5 more. That would have been tough, but you could have made the play for him. We'll talk about the Patriots in a second. Their receivers were making plays. The defensive backs for the Rams were making plays. Kobe Durant with 2 of them. They weren't easy ones. And yeah, like I'm not going to like attribute it to anything magical other than they just made it happen in the end in a game that could not have been any closer. And I think to your point, I think for a lot of the game, it almost looked like the Bears were the better team and the Rams snuck it out.
Yeah, that is kind of what it felt like. But I also think that you're right in that they could have made some plays. I think about a deep shot to Luther Burden that gets broken up by a great play by a Rams defensive back. And you think, oh, maybe a bigger receiver, a more experienced receiver, a stronger receiver makes that play, and that changes, the course of the game. But it's also this game, on Caleb's 3 interceptions, we just talked about the last one, but there was also one earlier where it felt like maybe there was another misunderstanding. And it's a feather in the cap of Chris Shula, the defensive coordinator for the Rams, for the way that he disguises coverage. They come out showing man coverage across the board. And it looks like the receiving core and Caleb both believe that it's man coverage. And instead, he goes to the corner route to Luther Burden, and Kobe Durant's right there drifting back in zone coverage to pick it off and take away the idea of a possible hole shot, because you think, all right, Burden's running the corner route. He's got the advantage on outside leverage over the safety, but he never sees Durant back there because he thinks Durant's running with the receiver who cuts inside from the outside, awesome. And he's never going to be there. And that's why it's beautiful that the Rams can get away with things like this, or at least accomplish things like this defensively. It's just a feather in the cap of Chris Shula, and an example of why football is so much of a chess match and such an in-game reaction thing. And for Caleb, being a second-year quarterback, done so many great things. You talk about over the last 6 weeks. I go all the way back to the Raider game, way back in week 4 when he led them back. That was the first step in him becoming this clutch player. He did it so many times this season, but it is another example of why we have to remind ourselves he is only in his second year, and he will learn from things like this.
There was a moment in the game where Collinsworth was maybe speculating that Loveland runs the wrong route on the adjustment there, and could have taken up more space vertically to occupy Durant, so that there's more freedom to get that ball to Luther Burden. But just a great play, a great call by defense, as you said, Greg. One team made plays when the ball was in the air, and the other did.
Yeah, and I think Colston Loveland ended up suffering a concussion in this game. He did not finish the game. Ben Johnson did confirm that afterwards. You hate to see that. And just shout out to Kevin Dotson and this running game and this offensive line that we'll have all week to talk about what they need to do in Seattle. But the running game, look, it's not as easy as just saying you got to run the ball more. And then it works. Like, you got to have the players to actually execute that on a day where they almost used no heavy personnel. They were basically in 3 wide receivers the whole game, almost treating Jordan Whittington as a tight end, or sometimes it was Mumpfield, but they did not go heavy. And for what it's worth, the few plays that they did, it did not go very well for them. And when they needed to run, their offensive line really road graded and just were getting 4-5-yard chunks. Let's wrap, actually, just giving the Rams some credit, and by listening to Sean McVay talk about what they were going up against today.
And that's what it's about. There's no style points. It's about being able to survive and advance, and we were able to do that in a tough, hostile environment, and it was cold as today.
And they got through. The West Coast team, they can win in the cold. Probably won't be as cold in Seattle next week. Whew. Let's take a break. I mean, the most surprising thing all Sunday for me was not the moment that Caleb Williams threw that pass. It was the moment that Eric got in my ear and told me, we've already gone 25 minutes. I was like, what? I feel like we've only been talking for like 5
We just started.
minutes. Let's take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the AFC matchup between Drake May and that Texans defense.
Stevenson steps up over the right guard. Here comes a four-man rush. May stands in, throws a long ball deep down the right side for Keyshawn Booty. Reaches out with the right hand, pulls it in. Touchdown! Patriots! A diving grab by Booty. And New England has regained a 2-score lead. That's what's up. That's a hell of a throw. 3rd and 4. They walk Henderson up. They're telling the Texans, we're throwing it. Drake May says, I don't care.
Poor Zolak. I mean, Eric's just sick of hearing him. He's like, that's enough, Zolak. That's Bob Sochi. That's the final score in a 28-16 Patriots victory. New England is moving on to the AFC Championship game in Denver. It was all building up to the Jarrett Stidham revenge game all along. What a sentence. We can talk about that later in the week. First, we got to talk about this game. Similar to how Matthew Stafford's defense kept getting the ball back to Stafford, the Patriots defense kept getting it back with turnovers. CJ Stroud and the Texans turn it over 5 times. And you can only keep this Patriots big play offense down for so long. They did throw 3 touchdown passes, first quarterback all season to do that against the Houston Texans. It wasn't pretty, Shook, on a play-by-play basis, but I was impressed by May and the receivers' ability to make something big happen in spurts. You know what I mean? Like, they just needed someone to make big plays, and Keyshawn Booty and Stephon Diggs and May in spurts made enough of them to get out of there in just an ugly game there in the cold rain and the snow.
Yeah, I think we're establishing a bit of the theme with the Patriots postseason journey, because that was kind of the story of the Charger game as well. Is the throw to Hunter Henry to get the touchdown to essentially seal that victory. And we got that 3 or 4 times today, which was the throw to Booty that you just heard that we just played there. But it was also an earlier throw to Booty on 3rd down where he forces it in a tight window for a gain of 17 or 18. That sets up the tight window throw to Stephon Diggs in the end zone for a touchdown. And yes, May is not lighting up the stat sheet. He finishes with 179 yards passing, 16 to 27, but with those 3 touchdowns, you don't have to when you get short fields because your defense is playing better than it has all year. It's very opportunistic. And outside of your own strip sack issues against a couple of good pass rushes who are totally taking advantage of a rookie at left tackle and Will Campbell, you're not committing, egregious turnovers that are costing you the game, and you're capitalizing on most of the opportunities that you're getting. And that's what's gotten them now to the AFC Championship game. The question is, will that formula stand the test of another week? We'll find out. But through 2 games, he hasn't been stellar, but he's been good when he's needed to be good, and that's what's mattered most.
Yeah, it's hard to evaluate because, look, he fumbled the ball 4 times, Drake May, today. And lost it twice. I think 2 were really on him, and 2, the pressure's pretty quick there from the blind side. The reason I kind of started with that play was ultimately this game was insane. First of all, I mean, there were 8 turnovers in the game, and they all happened, I think in the first 3 quarters. In those 5 turnovers, how many points do you think the Patriots scored off those? How much the offense scored off the turnovers?
I believe it was 0 points.
It was 0. They got the pick 6, but on offense, they didn't do anything with any of them. Yeah. The 3 touchdowns that they got were actually like full field, normal drives where they just suddenly popped up for like a 65, 70-yard drive, which against this Texans defense, you'll take. Ultimately, I think what people are going to remember more from this game is what happened on the other side of the ball with CJ Stroud.
Yeah, just a cataclysm of errors where you wonder about the early. We've had every single quarterback, I feel like, in the playoffs injure their hand on a follow through. At some point, it happens early for CJ Stroud. There was the wintry mix. There was the notable absence of Nico Collins coming into the game, out with the brain injury. And then they lose Dalton Schultz, who was apparently the entire plane was constructed, game plan-wise, out of Dalton Schultz. And combined with the worst CJ Stroud game since last week's worst CJ Stroud game, it all led to this just kind of a waste of a great defensive performance by the Houston Texans, because you talk about all three of those touchdown passes. If I'm not mistaken, other than the Kayshon Boutte one-hander, because that was the only place anybody was going to get a hand on the ball, the Texans got hands on both of those touchdown passes. Bullock got a full palm on the ball that was caught by Pop Douglas, where he makes a great adjustment late to catch that ball that was deflected, not like a full deflection, but enough that would have bothered some people. So he goes into the end zone there, and you could see Stephon Diggs' fingers impressing on the football as he's able to hold on to that touchdown pass, where that was the level of difficulty that was required for the Patriots to score points today. And then, Hunter and Anderson, I get like the frustrations with Will Campbell and the Patriots front. They're getting everybody. Like they're doing up everybody at this point. And that's going to happen with Drake May. He's going to have deep drops and look down the field and try to make plays. Maybe not the team that you want to do that against. But they kind of checked that down late in the second.
Right. They started just getting the ball out of his hands on some of the third and longs. I hear what you're saying, but here's just a little stat from Next Gen Stats.
Okay.
Will Anderson and Odafe Owe are the only two players in the history of the postseason to get 3 sacks and 2 forced fumbles in the same game. I mean, they do have a commonality, which was this Campbell and May are the two kind of problem. And look, May. There might be a little bit of we might be on hand size in the cold weather watch a little bit with Drake May. You're rolling your eyes.
Yeah, if you get Bobbin out there, or maybe Wimby, and have them hold the ball with giant hands and have Daniil Hunter swipe, it's not necessarily going to go.
No, if you were going to get on the hand size stuff, maybe it's when he fumbles it rushing earlier in the game. That was
they were playing in a slushy machine.
Either way, it was tough to make plays there on offense. Certainly, you mentioned that Douglas 4th down play. Let's actually listen to that, because I think that was a big early moment where Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel decide to go for it on 4th down instead of just quote unquote taking the points against a great defense. They decide to go for it on 4th down.
To his right, 2 receivers to the right, including Douglas. May's looking that way. He's throwing up. Douglas makes the catch. Runs 5 to the 10-5. Into the end zone. Touchdown.
What I just
Patriots.
said. Nobody on Pop Douglas. And they crease him. You get him in man coverage. Here comes the blitz. They go gun on 4th and 1. Patiently, your quarterback in an MVP here waits. Douglas clears the underneath coverage, and then it's off to the races. He's been nowhere this last month, and Pop Douglas gets you on the board early.
Why do you gotta say he's been nowhere this last month?
Like a reference to the MCU location? What's he mean?
I mean, he's been in Foxborough practicing with the Patriots, but he's like
taking a shot at Foxborough there.
4th wide receiver. I thought the game management, it wasn't perfect by the Patriots, but I do think the kind of routine that Josh McDaniels got in on a couple different drives, going for it there on 4th, how they handled kind of the end of half situation, different situations, compared to how DeMeco Ryans and the Texans handled a lot of their decision-making and their ability to kind of stay composed, and timeouts and pre-snap penalties, things like that. I think that was a difference, and I was kind of thinking about how Mike Vrabel said going into the year, the first thing we got to do is find out how to not beat ourselves, let the other teams beat themselves. And I did feel like at times on Sunday shook that the Texans were beating themselves.
Yeah, I think it's an identify your strengths going into the game and try to lean on that sort of situation for both of these teams. And if you're the Patriots, you're looking at that opportunity early and you're thinking, how many times are we going to get down here and really have a real shot at scoring a touchdown against this defense? Probably not very often. Even, we talked about how they didn't cash in those turnovers for points. That's kind of an example of what they expected. But in that moment, early enough in the game, you feel yourself having a little bit of strength, 4th and 1, we're going to get the right call, and you just narrowly get it past Kalen Bullock, and it ends up producing a touchdown. That's the risk that you take in a playoff game, and you hope that it pays off, and it did for them there. But you're right, and I thought it was most telling in the 4th quarter, not to speed ahead to that point, but there's 4.5 minutes left in the game, and the Texans are down 12 points, and DeMeco Ryans is like, I'm going to punt, because much like the Steeler game proved itself to be, the Texans defense probably had a better chance of scoring than the Texans offense did at that point, because he knew that was their strength, their defense. And it is unfortunate, because this is a defense that, had they gotten all the way to the Super Bowl, had an opportunity to go down among some of the best of this century. Like I'm thinking 2000s, the 2000 Ravens, the 02 Buccaneers, the 13 Seahawks, the 15 Broncos. That could have been this Texans defense, but because the offense was so bad, none of it ends up really mattering and ends up being a footnote in the greater picture.
This is unfair, but I think if they were those defenses, they would have been one of those defenses. You know what I mean? Like, that's okay. You're talking about the greatest defenses of all time. Yeah. So that's an unfair. The bar was they had to be one of those defenses, I think, to go on this run. But I think if they were one of those defenses, they would have been one of those defenses. It's kind of, it's like the line from the social network. If you were the one that invented Facebook,
us remembering those defenses.
If you were the one that would invented Facebook, you would have invented Facebook. Like, they still gave up the 3 touchdowns. You know what I mean?
Yes, but let's also consider the flow of the game and the fact that their offense was getting them nothing and they were constantly on the field. Like, time of possession was only 5-minute different, about 4.5 minute difference. But when we watched this game in real time, it felt like the Texans were constantly finding themselves trotting back on the field, tasked with doing the same thing they just got off the field doing, which was stopping a Patriots offense that had the potential to put points on the board.
I totally agree with you. The bar was like insanely unfairly high, and one of the big reasons the Patriots won this game was fumble luck. That when Danielle Hunter strip sacked Drake May near the goal line early in the game, he didn't fall on it. Like, he was so close. That could have been 7 points. When Will Anderson had a strip sack in the third quarter, he didn't fall on it, and that's more luck than anything. And so maybe that's a fair point that it's complementary, but it's not like they were on the field play-wise that much. Actually, the Texans had more plays. The Texans made it to the red zone 4 times. The Patriots only did it once. The problem was, as you mentioned, Shook, that when they hit plays, like, they kind of hit them in a row and they hit big plays. We actually have like a shot of, Kayshon Boutte dusted Derek Stingley Jr. I wouldn't say he dusted him for this touchdown, but his very first touchdown for Drake May in his entire career was from basically the same spot on the field, little in front of the 40, and he beats Derek Stingley clean, and he scores a touchdown there. Kamari Lassiter got beat off the line of scrimmage. They didn't hit that shot to Kyle Williams in this game, but Stingley had another pass interference penalty. The bar was like so unfairly high that they just had to shut them down, but they didn't force field goals is kind of what I'm getting at. Like, that they needed to force field goals, not give up touchdowns.
Yeah. And they got, good defenses can get got, especially when they're put in disadvantageous situations where there's the accumulation of dealing with what they were having to watch, the amount of times they were having to run immediately back on the field. Great plays by Drake May and this Patriots team. I think it's a little more difficult now to have, because we talk about those defenses of old. I think the game has changed to a capacity where
I agree.
We're probably never going to see that level of defense, and as well as keeping teams. We would talk 2000 Ravens going through that playoff run where I don't think anybody got 20 points. I don't know that we're getting there again.
That's fair. And the Patriots defense did score in this game, as we mentioned earlier. Let's actually listen to the pick six by Marcus Jones. I think this was the biggest play in the game because, to bring it back to this point, the Texans are winning at this point. C.J. Stroud did put together a pretty good touchdown drive to go up 10-7. So they had scored 10 points unanswered. They really had Drake May looking rattled early in this game, but they get the ball back. The Texans do, and that is time for the Patriots to score.
C.J. Stroud in a tight formation, 2-by-2. Single back is Chubb. Play fake. Bootleg to the near side. Receiver fell down, and Stroud throws it up in the air. Intercepted Marcus Jones. Right 20, 15-10. Jones is tackled by Hutchinson. Takes him to the pylon. Touchdown! Patriots!
Look at it. It's nuts again. They're going nuts. And you gotta love it. Pressure off the edge. Contact. And the ball goes popped up right in the air. And finally, we get it off the deflection. There's been 3 times in the first quarter. Balls have gone up, deflected, and on the ground. Jones picks it off, and the rest is history.
Just a brutal decision by Stroud, one of 4 first half interceptions. One of them, the throw was a little high. Who was that off of? Higgins?
Yeah. No, it was Hutchinson.
Hutchinson. Like, that one was kind of, a little on both of them. The others were more about the decisions rather than the execution. But it didn't seem like he had a lot of open receivers in this game. A play like that, though, and you gotta you got to find a way to dirt it or just take the sack.
Yeah, but
Just take the sack.
it's also a microcosm of the Texans 2025 season on offense where the operation was weird. You had Bryant in because Schultz had already gotten hurt at this point. He's coming across in motion. The tackle steps back, trips him, so he goes down. There were so
Milton
many.
Williams kind of pushed it. He gets a little bit of an assist on that play. Yep.
But there were just so many plays in this Texans season where the ball's being snapped and bounce passes to C.J. Stroud, where there's spin move handoffs to the wrong person. The defensive toe guys getting weird touchdown opportunities. Where this was something that is happening all season for the Texans, and the Patriots were able to take it.
Woody Marks ran for 17 yards on 14 carries. They also had the Texans Classic, an illegal formation inside the 5-yard line that took a touchdown off the board on, I think, the first drive of the game. Like
because you have a defensive tackle at fullback.
So it was, and you mentioned the injuries to Schultz and Nico. Don't forget Trent Brown, who's been so important for them, was inactive for this game. He got hurt last week. I was a little bit surprised he was inactive. And then Titus Howard, who was helping to replace him. I mean, he's a starter, but they moved the whole line around. He gets hurt in this game too. So they're down a couple offensive lines. So there was a lot going against him. Let's actually listen to D'Amico Ryans asked after the game about, backing his quarterback, the man that he entered Houston with.
No, CJ's our guy. I believe that he could come back out in the second half and flip it. I believe that he could play better, and he did that in the second half. He did play better. We had some positive drives there in the second half because I believe that he would do that, and he did that.
Let's also listen to C.J. Stroud after the game, after one of his, if not most difficult nights as a pro.
I'm a pretty self-confident person. I think, when they started to pile up, I tried my best to, stay, locked in the spirit and, realizing like, I just got to be there for my teammates, and they encouraged me a lot through it. So I'm really appreciative of this team and, them doing that because they didn't have to. But yeah, it was not easy. It's something that I'm learning from, and I'm just grateful for my teammates for picking me up.
I'm always a CJ Stroud believer. He's gonna have to wear this offseason. Shook, kind of where are you at with Stroud after this third season, and especially like how it ended these last 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think you have to look at his career in totality from this point because of how good he was as a rookie, and you have to think what changed. Last year, they had a terrible offensive line. He had over 50 sacks taken. That was obviously a need for them going into the offseason. They felt like they had improved it, and it showed in the sack numbers. They cut that in half. But Stroud was still a little inconsistent when it came to just delivering. And we saw in some games, like the late season game against the Chargers, where they were good for the big play. Like if he had time to throw, he'd find a guy downfield and produce explosives. And they did that a lot down the second half of the season once Stroud came back to replace Davis Mills. But ultimately, once you lose a couple of guys in a playoff game, you see the same offensive line regress back to where it was last year. And it has been under pressure for so long now that I feel like they've kind of broken him a little bit mentally, and he needs an offseason to kind of reset. He needs to be told that I can trust this offensive line and I don't have to go be the hero and make the superhero play that results in all the turnovers we saw against Pittsburgh and we saw against New England today. So I think that's a big part of it too. But also, I'm a little concerned about his accuracy over the long term, like to the point where Aikman's like his hand's got to be hurt or something, because even on the touchdown pass he throws to Christian Kirk in this game, it's on the wrong shoulder. Like he was missing placement all game, and he'd been doing that for a little bit, against Pittsburgh as well. He had some bigger throws in that game, but it makes me think that is your greatest attribute is your accuracy. That's what made you special coming out of Ohio State. That's what made you special as a rookie. If that's gone, you got bigger problems at hand. And unfortunately, the season ends in this fashion, and now all he's going to have to try to tune out for the entire offseason is he the future? The Texans need to look somewhere else when maybe he just needs an offseason to reset. But yeah, it's not nearly as encouraging as it was 2 years ago. And I understand why people would question his outlook now.
Look, I'm shocked that Texans fans are jumping off. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be shocked. Every fan jumps off the quarterback when they struggle big time.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of people calling for Mitch Trubisky yesterday.
Right. CJ goes 20 for 47 in this game. The context of what happened, especially last year, it is important, and certainly this year it hasn't been perfect either. But he's also just become an erratic quarterback in a way that, like, I believed he was like real deal truth, and I still think he can be, because one thing I'll always believe, if you show that level at the NFL level, you can do it. Like you can get back to that. But there have been a lot of times this season when the situation actually I think's been fine, like within a game, certainly within plays, and that he has done things that have been confounding. That he's just been more erratic on a play-to-play, drive-to-drive, quarter-to-quarter, game-to-game basis, where I'm never quite sure like where it's coming. And sometimes he'll get in a rhythm, and you'll be like, "Damn, that's one of the best."
You're like, there it is.
That's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, because he does the hard stuff really well. But sometimes, and I know the weather, I think, was a huge factor in this game. I think the Patriots defense has gotten way better as the season's gone on, and they were a huge factor in this game. But they need to go back to the drawing board, because I don't think you can just put it all on everything around them. There's something that was going on this year, I think, even in good situations, that almost concerned me more than what happened last year. I think on balance it was a little more unsettling. But for the Texans, they're not going to question anything. Like, they're going to pick up his 5th-year option. He's contract extension eligible. What it might do is it just might prevent them from giving him his monster contract now, which frankly I think is like that's the breaks. It's a 5-year rookie contract. You don't have to get the contract after 3 years, but they might try to save some money on giving it to him now. Like, that's not to decide right now.
And I think that'd be preposterous at this point. And I think the folks calling for Davis Mills in this game were a touch preposterous, considering what CJ has been able to do. I think, like, looking at the evidence.
What do you think's preposterous, though? I mean, it's a 5-year rookie contract as long as you pick up that 5th-year option. I don't think it's preposterous to just be like, okay, go play your.
Well, I think to get cute with it, you can save the money and go ahead and sign him to a deal after a bad playoff performance,
right?
Versus saying, oh, all right, well, we're gonna play hardball here, take this all the way at the end, and you look at a quarterback circumstance league wide, and you're like, oh, well, this CJ Stroud guy is pretty effective, and now you're a year behind the sticks in everything, where like we saw, Jerry do that with Dak. We've seen that with a couple of quarterback contract situations where why don't you just go ahead and get it done, especially in a situation where late in this game you have Hutchinson on Spillane and he's open by 4 yards. There's nobody around CJ Stroud, and he leaves the ball 6 yards short. Like, I think you could take, like, this was especially bad.
Yes.
And I think we can just junk this and trash it and not say that this is evidence to the long-term viability of CJ Stroud as a football player.
I think if you're going to get that deal done, though, you have to do so with the intent to try to improve the situation around him, because we also need to consider the fact that they made Bobby Slowick their scapegoat last year and changed offensive coordinators and didn't. I mean, I guess they acknowledged that their offensive line was bad and they tried to improve it, but I don't think they got any better play calling wise from Nick Haley in his first year. Like, that's not enough, right? So if you're going to do that, you got to marry it, and you got to also understand that I think he's dealing with some residual effects from what he went through last year, and you got to bring him back to, like, reset and get back to who he is if you're going to give him that contract. But you could buy low coming off of this game, which could help your franchise and your salary cap in the long term.
Yeah, that's fair. But he does have 2 years left to be clear. So it's not like they would be taking it down to the wire. We'll probably be hitting on this during the offseason. The crazy thing is, I'm looking at the next gen stats right now. It's like they actually had a slightly higher success rate than the Patriots in this game. Now, obviously, Drake May goes for way more yards per attempt because he hits some big ones. But they were going up against good defenses. I think kind of the takeaway is that, like, look, the Patriots also forced these turnovers. They forced the field goals. And I do think D'Amico is such a good coach in so many ways, such a great defensive coach. You got to have answers on how to help your offense, and you got to have better answers in game management. Like, they blew, and this is on the entire operation, not necessarily just him. They blew 2 timeouts in the second half. They did that punt that you mentioned, which was the worst surrender punt I've ever seen. So someone went and checked. You're making a face.
No, I think Shook's right. I think the opportunities for Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter might have been
No,
more
it's true. It's true. It's just depressing, but it's true.
It's 4th and 18, so the game's over, like, either way. But you're down 12 points with under 4 minutes to go. Someone looked for similar punts in under 5 minutes to go in a playoff game, down 2 scores. They found one example, actually, which I found hilarious. Ron Rivera punted with 2 minutes and 6 seconds left down 12 in the Super Bowl on 4th and 28. He was just like, screw it. I'm getting out of here. Like on his own 6-yard line or something like that. He was just like 4th and 28. I'm not bothering, which is basically what he did. And you know what? Of all the moments though, like Marks' fumble, I thought was maybe the biggest play in the game.
Yep.
Because Marks fumbles as they're potentially going in, they're at that point, they had cut it already to what? 5 points. It's 21 to 13 at that point, and they're kind of rolling on offense. And Marks fumbles in the red zone. So let's give some just quick shout outs because I want to say goodbye to this Texans defense, and I just want to give some love to like Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter and Henry To'oTo'o, who is awesome down the stretch this season, and Kamari Lassiter today with 3 pass breakups. He gave up 1 catch on 7 targets. He was that dude. Jalen Petrie was really active in this game. Togiai, you're right. I was being a little harsh on the Texans earlier. This was a special defense. They deserve better.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hell, let's listen to one more Texans highlight. Why not? Eric, cut it. Let's get our money's worth.
Texans frothing at the mouth on defense on this 3rd down situation. May calls for the ball. Here's the rush. Here comes Will. The ball is out, and the Texans have it. Aziz falls on it. A takeaway for the Texans. The Terminator strikes again.
I know it doesn't matter now, but in that moment, I was like, oh, wait, they might actually come back.
Oh, yeah. I thought they were coming back because that defense is just scary. That was Mark Vandermeer for the final time on KILT. But, yeah, on the other side, to give some shout-outs there, too, Claybon Chason, 4 quarterback hits in this game, forced a turnover. You mentioned that Milton Williams and Christian Barmore, they were living in the backfield. There were a lot of tackles for loss in this game. Christian Gonzalez, 15 targets. He was targeted 15 times in this game, which is outrageous. Only gave up 67 yards on those 15 targets, 8 catches, but they were for short. Carlton Davis, who left with a brain injury, 2 interceptions, 4 passes defensed. And then how about Zach Kerr? Not a lot of Zach Kerr love, the defensive play caller, a good couple of weeks here. Wherever Zach Kerr goes, like everyone is just questioning the quarterbacks after the fact, creating controversy.
Oh, wow. It's like the Grim Reaper.
I don't know.
The Carlton Davis game, by the way. Those 2 picks were low probability, and he got both of them.
That's sort of what I was getting at, too. Like sometimes it is about making those plays. If you think about the plays on the ball, like Stephon Diggs, Booty, Carlton Davis, they made the plays on the ball in a difficult situation. Stephon Diggs with a great quote. He was asked, how did he catch that missile from Drake May? And he said, with my hands.
He also credited May for the pass, but he's worked on the hands a lot.
It was an incredible catch. First thoughts, just very quickly. Patriots playing at Denver in the AFC Championship game next week. That's going to be the earlier game. It's the same schedule as this Sunday in terms of timing. So it's a 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Best Coast. Patriots at Broncos, bringing back some bad memories of the Broncos taking down New England in the AFC Championship a couple times in the Tom Brady, Peyton Manning era. I think they're 0-3 in Denver all time in the playoffs. And then the trilogy will be completed. I feel like, no offense to the AFC, but it feels right that the Rams and the Seahawks are finishing the day because I think these have been the best 2 teams in the NFL all season. It almost didn't happen, but I think we've been leading here all season, and they will face off for probably the right to be the favorites for whatever that's worth in the Super Bowl in Santa Clara in a couple weeks. I'll give you the floor, Shook, of just some quick thoughts. We'll obviously be talking about it during the week.
Well, my takeaway was going to be shout out to the schedule makers, Mike North, everybody else in the NFL office at 345 Park, because you got it right. You put the better game of the 2 in the later window. So thank you to you.
Well, they don't have a choice. They go back and forth every year. So it's like it'll be AFC next
all right,
year.
Then we're going to throw all that aside. I'll have another take.
Yeah.
And the take is I can't wait to see Rams Seahawks Part 3. Just because if you look at the way they played this season, I feel like the Rams stole the first one, the Seahawks stole the second one. We're going back to Seattle. Place is going to be raucous. Can Matthew Stafford find a way to continue to sling it against this great defense that seems to be peaking? The Seahawks look like the best team in football. Are they going to complete their run of the Super Bowl, or is Stafford going to play the foil? We'll find out.
Yeah, a lot of attention being paid, understandably, to Sam's oblique, where I think that will be a factor. I think he will need to play better. I think he'll actually need to play. Didn't even really need to play against the 49ers. And, we'll see what Stiddy has. What Stiddy has in store for us, because it feels like the universe kind of robbed us of an opportunity to see the high variance version of Bo Nix, who could absolutely beat this Patriots team. He could absolutely lose this Patriots team, but man, it would be fun to watch.
Yeah, Nick Foles, still enjoying that Super Bowl victory as he should. Did send out a note for the Broncos and their fans that it's been an emotional 24 hours. He feels for Bo and the team, and he's sending prayers for a strong recovery. But a positive note going into the game versus the Patriots is that they struggle against backup quarterbacks in championship-type games. Good job there, Nick Foles.
He brings it all back to old Nick.
I mean, why not just twist it in? Why not? No, it's a good job. And I'm higher on Jarrett Stidham than consensus. I have always been, for what it's worth. It was that one game against the Raiders like 3 years ago now. That's good.
Consensus doesn't even care about Jarrett Stidham. He hasn't played in 2 years.
Well, everyone thinks he's just a total joke.
It feels like you're positioning yourself for I told you I was right situation a week from now.
No, I think the Patriots should be favored by a little or whatever, because of that. But as backup quarterbacks go, I'm trusting Sean Payton. He gave this man 2 contracts. He's a day one signing. And I'm going back to that preseason tape because I remember it, Chuck. I don't know if you remember. We were hitting some preseason recaps.
He was the preseason quarterback of the year for us.
We called him preseason MVP this year.
Yeah,
that's why you tune in August, Patrick.
I love it. I'm dialed up. Summon that Jarrett Stidham sitting on the throne wearing his Patriots jersey picture that we'll be looking at all week. I'm going to love it. I can't wait.
Go watch that tape against the Niners. By the way, that's where the Super Bowl is going to be played. Maybe he'll be back there.
Yeah. And if you think Bo Nix is a high variance quarterback, wait till you see Jarrett Stidham. That's a big arm athlete who's I think he's going to go down swinging. It's either going to go great or go terrible.
I mean, what Auburn transfer quarterback's available? Is Nick Marshall out there?
Another Auburn transfer quarterback. Why not? Just stack them all up.
Cam, what you doing?
Man, not the game that we expected, but I feel somehow like the game that this version of the AFC in this just totally weird, wide open season kind of deserved. So the Patriots, the Broncos, the top 2 seeds.
Yeah, the committee got it right.
get to the end this year. We will be back, not on Monday night. Back in the feed, actually, I think the next thing you'll hear from us is a 40s and free agents episode where we go through all the AFC teams and what they need to do this offseason. I'm enjoying this exercise and kind of just a quick look at the free agents, all that sort of stuff. And then back in this studio with the See You Next Tuesday crew, Colleen Wolfe and Jordan Rodrigue on Tuesday. Big week ahead. Championship week. Coaches are getting hired. Shook's got to go right. Patrick's taking his tie off. We're getting out of here. We're down to 4 teams, 3 games. See you Monday.